Am I the asshole for leaving my mom at the airport with no ticket and no plan? This still weighs on me. Some background. My mom was abusive growing up. It got bad enough that at 12, I left home through the courts and moved in with my dad. That decision fractured our family. On the court paperwork, under name of child, she wrote something like, "I have no son." I've carried that with me ever since. I had little contact with her after that. Briefly at 17, again in my early 20s, and not consistently until much later. I'm now almost 40. I spent over 20 years drinking heavily and finally got sober in 2018, which is when I made an effort to reconnect with my family, including my mom. She's closer to 70 now and has zero contact with 2 of her 3 kids. Reconnecting wasn't easy. When I asked if she ever reflected on the abuse, she told me I was an adult and needed to let it go already. That was a turning point. I realized any forgiveness would be one-sided. If I wanted peace, it was on me. Since then, our relationship has been rocky but present. We've had family reunions and even traveled overseas together for 3 weeks. We argue often, usually over small things, but we stayed in contact until this. Last summer, I invited her to my city to see a band she's loved since I was young. The plan was simple. She'd arrive on Wednesday, we'd go to the concert on Thursday, she'd fly out to visit my sisters on Friday, and I'd leave early Saturday for my own trip. She agreed. When she arrived, she mentioned she'd only bought a one-way ticket and would book the Friday flight later. That made me uneasy, and I reminded her several times to make sure it was booked. I thought I was clear in my wording and tone that I didn't want anyone staying in my house while I was gone. Friday came. The concert was fine. Then she told me she still hadn't bought a plane ticket, and now, with prices having gone up, she planned to stay a few extra days, while I was away. I told her plainly, "I'm leaving at 5 a.m. tomorrow. You need to get on that plane." I even offered to cover the extra cost. She refused and invited herself to stay at my place. That's when I said clearly that I wasn't comfortable with anyone staying in my home while I wasn't there. She accused me of not trusting her and said she was my mother. I said it wasn't about trust, I just didn't want anyone in my house. The argument escalated. Finally, she said, "Fine. Take me to the airport." I think she expected me to cave. I didn't. I packed the car, grabbed my daughter, and drove her to the airport in silence. When we arrived, it felt like a standoff, like she was waiting for me to say, "Never mind, don't go." I didn't. I took her bag out, set it on the curb, and told her, "If you can't find a ticket, let me know. I can help you pay for a hotel." Then I left. Months later, I'm still thinking about it. I don't think I stranded my mom with no options. I offered to cover the cost of the flight and hotel. But I did leave her at the airport, knowing she hadn't booked a ticket. Am I the asshole? Do you realize, Opie, that you just explained how her abuse and manipulation is continuing? This was the abuse cycle you just typed out, and are still carrying it since it's hurting you so much. She's never once accepted accountability. You can forgive, but you don't have to accept. If she makes you feel bad about your boundaries, that's someone that doesn't need to be let in. She can wave at you from the outside, or stomp on by in a tantrum. But stop letting her in. ETA, thanks for all the awards, everyone. I had no idea this comment would resonate so much. Sometimes it's hard for people to see the cycle when they're in it. Abusers are masters at making their victim think they are responsible for what the abuser chooses to do. Your mother is still an abuser. Not the asshole. The only mistake I see is that you think you reconnected, but all you've really done is reboot the old relationship you had with your mom. It sends the wrong message. I think that's why she expected to stay at your place. She thought you were accepting that things were going to be the way they used to be. Not the asshole. She knew exactly what she was doing. She was planning on staying in your house unsupervised from the beginning. You're right not to trust her. Not the asshole. She was probably planning on staying at your house and never leaving. Not the asshole. Your mom absolutely knew what she was doing. She was planning to stay at the house unsupervised from the beginning. She FAFO'd, and now she pays the consequences. You did the right thing. I think the only mistake you made was reconnecting with her. Some relationships are left not rebuilt. It's time that you go very low contact with your mom permanently. Am I the asshole for telling neighbor to go through insurance? Edit. Thanks for replying, everyone. I understand that it would probably be less hassle to just have my handyman fix it, but I won't be doing that. It probably does make me a little bit of an asshole, and I accept that. Name calling is where I draw the line. I pay for insurance. I already made a claim, so her adding on to that doesn't change my rates. I am sorry I hit her mailbox, and I fulfilled my obligation by giving her my insurance. She doesn't have access to me anytime she wants another apology, and she certainly doesn't get to call me names. Original post. My car slipped on black ice and I hit my neighbor's mailbox. Gave her my insurance info. She said my insurance wanted her to pay up front, and she didn't have the money. I said I would buy the mailboxes and pay my handyman to put them in, but it would be after the first of the year, because the mailbox wouldn't be in until December 29th, and he had family plans. On December 29th, she called me, but I couldn't answer because my daughter was sick. I texted my handyman and asked for him to arrange what day he could come and install. He told her he had the mailbox and arranged for Friday, January 2nd to install when he was back in town. On December 31st, she texted me a sarcastic text messages that I didn't care. I told her my daughter ended up in the hospital, and I couldn't return her call, which is why my handyman reached out to arrange a day and time. She said out of respect, I should have called her back. That I should be ashamed of myself and be more apologetic. I've already had 2 30-minute calls where I profusely apologized. I told her to go through my insurance if I wasn't doing it fast enough. She then sent this text. And you are the homeowner that plowed over my mailbox. So completely disrespectful and sinful. You should be ashamed and embarrassed and apologetic. Call, handyman. You are pathetic. And then sent this and blocked her. I'm returning the mailbox. Go through insurance. You have the info. I didn't have to buy them and pay, handyman, to put them in. He told you he'd be there on Friday, and I told you the same thing. That obviously isn't good enough. So go through insurance. Am I the asshole for making her go through insurance after she started calling me names? Edit to add info. Her mailbox is still usable, and she is still getting mail. It just had a crack. She picked the mailbox, and it would arrive until December 29th. She knew that but wanted that specific mailbox. I sent the handyman over to fix her leaky sink as an I'm sorry. I've also dropped off treats and homemade bread as an I'm sorry. I have answered all her calls except the December 29th call. I use that iPhone feature where you can text, and the phone will tell the person calling why you can't answer. I said my daughter is sick, handyman will reach out to schedule. He reached out and scheduled for January 2nd. She texted on December 31st that I should have called her personally and that I should be ashamed. Told her my daughter ended up in the hospital with RSV, and I thought it was resolved because she had a date the handyman was coming. She texted back, okay, you're pathetic. Then she kept going with I was sinful. Told her to go through instance. One more edit. I am a female with absolutely no tools. I pay the handyman to fix things. If I knew how to do it, I would have done it. But I've learned I make way more working my job, and paying someone do it right the first time is more cost-effective. Update. Someone advised that I contact my insurance company to see if she made a claim. She did weeks ago and said she'd be turning in receipts. My handyman reached out and asked if he could buy the mailbox from me since it was a nice one instead of me having to return it. I gave it to him for the inconvenience of his schedule being canceled. While we were talking, he said she had requested copy of receipts, even though I was paying him directly. Also, I already had a claim open because there was damage to my car. So the deductible has to be paid anyway. This will not cost me extra, and I have accident forgiveness. And one less neighbor I have to wave to LOL. I work in insurance and do this for a living. She absolutely 100% does not have to pay for mailbox up front. Noon told her that. She has to get a quote and submit it to the insurance, and they will pay. If you do pay her, don't hand cash, or she might still try to claim on insurance and lie and say you didn't pay. Pay on Venmo or something traceable, and put note for PMT purpose. If accidentally hitting her mailbox is sinful, then this should be between you and God at this point. Tell her to pray for your soul. /us not the asshole. Not the asshole. Sinful. Jeez Louise. Once she stopped being friendly, she lost the right to expect favors from you. For my friends, everything. For my enemies, the law. Not the asshole. But some of the commoners here certainly are. They criticize Opie for taking 4 weeks to fix this. But Post says the neighbor wanted a specific model and knew it wouldn't arrive until late December. They criticize Opie for keeping neighbor from receiving mail. But Post says original box is still usable. They defend neighbor for calling to complain on December 29th when box wasn't installed. But Post says neighbor had been told installation wouldn't happen until after New Year's Day. They criticize Opie for putting neighbor in direct contact with handyman. But post notes Opie was dealing with sick child, and in any case, seems acting as middleman would be much less efficient. They criticize Opie for hiring a handyman, which just really? I'm an insurance adjuster, and she does not have to pay up front. She just needs to submit a valid estimate, which is she is probably too lazy to go get. Screw her. Sinful big red flag. Stay away from this crazy person, not the asshole. Would I be the asshole if I deny my newfound half-sister, on my father's side, access to my mother? This is a bit complicated, please bear with me. Recently a girl, 23F, reached out to me, 25F, via Facebook explaining that she is my half-sister, conceived by my father and another woman. She explained that her mother recently came clean to her regarding her father, that she, 23F, was the result of a ONS with a guy she met during a work trip, before she was told that she was the bio kid of her stepfather. She didn't find our father online as he doesn't have SOCMD, but found me thanks to our very uncommon surname. How her mother knows our surname, but doesn't have any other contact information. 23F told me her mother was very cagey about everything. After a bunch of messaging, we set up a video call to talk, and 23F explained she was very excited to connect with her real family, and yada yada. But not just with my father's side, also with my mother's? As you can guess from our ages, my father cheated on my mom with 23F's mother. No surprise there, as he had tons of affairs during the marriage, which is why they divorced almost 2 decades ago. I'm also not surprised that 23F exists, as my father told me himself years ago when I was grilling him about the cheating that he most likely has a bunch of affair kids out there, because that's just how men are. I was open with her and told her that I'm NC with my paternal family because not only did they condone the cheating and blamed my mom for it, they are also just toxic in general. There is a lot to say about my paternal family, but to keep it concise, I told her I could give her their contact info, but that she should keep her expectations low because they are all pretty terrible people, and she won't be seen as a long-lost daughter coming home. But me saying that led to her asking about my maternal family, to which I told her that they are amazing people, and that my mother is great. She then got excited and said she can't wait to connect with my mom, and I'm stumped as to why I would let her do that. She is not related to my mom, and my parents divorced long ago. My mom has also since remarried. Also, the timing of 23F's conception coincides with the time when my mom miscarried my younger brother, something that obviously hurt her a lot. Knowing that on top of that pain my father was cheating on her during that time is another can of worms. I told 23F I would ask my mom if she's okay with connecting with her, but I don't think I should even bring this up to her. All of this just seems so weird to me, and I don't even know if 23F is a good person, or if she has some sort of ulterior motive for wanting to know my mom. 23F couldn't even give me a good reason as to why she would want that, just that my mom is my family, and thus also hers, 23F's. I'm leaning towards not mentioning this to my mom and giving 23F my dad's info, but my best friend said I'm an asshole for keeping my mom to myself, and that I shouldn't make this decision for my mom. Would I be the asshole if I don't mention anything to my mom? Not the asshole your half-sister is batshit crazy if she thinks that your mom wants to have a relationship with her ex-husband's child that he had during their marriage. You have no obligation to pander to batshit crazy. Not the asshole. I may be overly suspicious, but I'd be wanting DNA evidence of relationship after her so smoothly moving on from wanting to be connected with your father's family onto your mother's. Grifters and scams abound these days, and it pays to be cautious. Not the asshole, however. Your mom needs a heads up. Your father's daughter seems to be looking for new family, and she is not related to your maternal extended family. Your mom should be prepared in case she goes around you. Not the asshole. Your friend is stupid as fuck. Please take your best friend to the hospital ASAP. It appears that she's had a head injury recently. Rolling on the floor laughing. On a more serious note, secrets are destructive, and as much as you want to protect your mom, just let her know and she can decide for herself. Sadly, your dad did a number on her trust with the affairs. Don't let this be a secret to break your bond. It's also saying, I don't think you can handle it vibes. Imagine if 23 decides to contact her of her own cognition and your mom found out you knew. Yikes. Just be upfront. 23 doesn't have any rights to your mother. I'm also wondering whether she's reaching out to your mom as a way of hurting her mother. I would be wary of staying in touch with someone who is delusional enough to believe that your mother would want contact with her ex's child conceived while they were married. Am I the asshole for speaking up at a buffet? So my girlfriend and I decided to go to a Chinese buffet to celebrate the new year. As we were getting food, we saw that they were out of the barbecue short ribs, but noticed that a staff member was coming with another tray, so we stood off to the side as they made their way through the crowd with the tray. Before we were able to pick up the tongs to grab the food, another lady took them and started loading her plate. Whatever. It's a fresh tray, there should be enough. But she did not stop. She even grabbed a second plate and called her son over to put some on his plate. It got to the point where nearly half of the tray was taken. I then said, more to my girlfriend but loud enough for the lady to hear, "Gee, I wonder if there will be enough left for everyone else when they're done." Well, the lady obviously heard me because she got all huffy and threw the tongs back into the tray and left. My girlfriend got mad at me because it was embarrassing for her, and she said we could have left to get other food and come back later. So am I the asshole? Edit, typos. Not the asshole. If people don't want to be embarrassed for acting like dicks, they shouldn't act like dicks. Your girlfriend should be glad she's not dating a total doormat. There's two types of people. Those who don't like confrontation and those who are willing to speak up. But I wouldn't necessarily call either one asshole behavior. You and your girlfriend simply have different personalities. She could try to understand you don't like to stay silent about rude behavior, and you could try to understand she won't probably stand by your side if you decide to confront speak up. Yes, she was greedy, but you didn't speak up. You were passive-aggressive. I don't exactly blame you for not going. Excuse me, ma'am, I'd like to try those too. But you don't get courage points either. This may be unpopular, but not the asshole. It was passive-aggressive for sure, but if that lady gets to break social norms, then so do you, woman shrugging medium light skin tone. Not the asshole, but also unnecessarily passive-aggressive. You should have said what you had to say directly to the WOMA instead of making a snide comment to your girlfriend, who clearly wanted no part of the incident to begin with. Not the asshole, maybe could have worded it less passive-aggressively, but something needed to be said.